acting chair. Call this meeting to order at 4:07, 4:08.
408.
Should we have a roll call, please?
Oh, of course, that was.
Sorry, I distracted you, sorry.
That's okay, I forgot my roll call list, okay. I just froze, I'm so sorry. Okay, Commissioner Whittington,
Here.
Commissioner Spillman,
Here.
Commissioner Lindquist, absent. Commissioner Edwards. Commissioner Flanagan.
Here.
Is that everybody? I'm so sorry, I don't have my cheat sheet. Okay. You do have a quorum if Commissioner Flanagan will act as a commissioner.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay. We have an agenda here. Are there any revisions proposed to the agenda?
Set.
Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
I will say aye, so. That's all of us. Okay, it's fine for me. Okay. Do we have anybody from the public who wishes to make comments not on the agenda? Yes.
I would like to make some comments. Okay, look at the clock here, and it's after 12. Okay, I haven't really prepared for this. But, I did get something up under there. The last meeting we were here, I made a comment about, that I had, an animal cruelty charge lodged against me. And this was, swiftly, dismissed by the court. Not being from Leadville, it seems like I've had lots of charges that were dismissed by the courts. And without making a long speech about it, which I will have 3 minutes. I looked up, I got a book at the thrift store called Gangbusters. And it was about a guy named Philip S. Van Cissy, who was a Denver district attorney from 1921, I think, to 1925. And he did 2 things. First, he took on a stock market scam group that was quite extensive and put them out of business. And then he also then took on Ku Klux Klan and was there while they essentially rose to ascension and then quickly went out of business themselves to some degree. My time in Leadville has been something like that. So we're past a minute and we're running the second minute. I was accused of being a drug dealer at one point, and I took umbrage on that, or whatever the right word is, and I appealed, I asked for access to public records, and I established a precedent on access to police investigatory files. Although, when you look the precedent up in the statutes, it doesn't reflect actually that the judge did give me access to things that pertain to me, and I decided to go for full access. But establish a precedent. Then I addressed a predatory real estate scam in my neighborhood, and I really learned all about people's anger. So my experience in Leadville has been, in some ways, really negative, but living here is a really positive thing. So I don't bear grudges on people, but what I wanted to talk to about, and perhaps if we have 3 minutes at the end, I'll be able to talk about it. Thank you.
Okay. Well, why don't you Why don't you just go ahead and.
63 more minutes,
We'll give you
okay.
3 more.
Okay, so the time now is after 2. Okay, so one of the problems we have in Leadville, from my perspective, is we have people on different boards that shouldn't be on boards. I complained about Tracy Lawrence, and city council member, not giving up her position when she became the county clerk. And this came back at me when she tried to provoke me by giving advice to Hannah that when I turned in my signatures, that I could not get new signatures, I would have to recycle the old signatures, which didn't make any sense. And since I ran for office before, I knew that this was wrong. And Tracy Lawrence is an incredibly intelligent person. So to say that she misunderstood this, I believe that's not true. I believe this was a vindictive action on her part. Okay, so now she's on the P and Z board with Greg Lavin. Greg Lavin is not allowed to run for more than 2 terms, anybody, for more than 2 terms as a mayor, because the reason for that is simply, they don't want these people gaining so much political power that it becomes dysfunctional and corrupt at some point. Somehow he's on P and Z now. Joey was on both P and Z for county and city. Now he's a county, this elected position on city council, and he's still on this board. I mean, he shouldn't be, holding all these positions. To compound it further, I feel when realtors are on these positions, this is a bad thing. Their whole thing focuses about making money on real estate and the things that the judges they make. And there's an appearance of impropriety is going to be to further their own interests. So I think we need to start addressing these kind of issues that, okay, so we used up 2 minutes, I think. That, one, realtors should not be on government boards. And 2, because of the housing problem we have, I mean, they have an incredible leverage in the legislature. The realtors and the landlords have such a strong lobby, that when something comes up that's tenant, it gets.
What's its content and how do people feel about it? I wrote a Kearney Area Community Foundation.
Okay, well, it seems we have some other communications here, but, so I think to avoid an appearance of propriety and to avoid improprieties, we should start strongly putting limits on how many boards people can be on, and they should be working for the county and then on the city boards. Thank you kindly.
Okay, thank you. Are there any more public comments? Okay, hearing none, let's move on to housekeeping items. Herald Democrat, Leadville History Month.
I just want to make sure that everybody saw the newspaper, not only the Scott's article in there was another article from Stephanie Wagner there were just several really good newspaper for History Month. So I just wanted to make sure, I do have a copy if you didn't get to see it, but I just wanted to make sure that everybody looked at it and saw that they're really playing it up in the newspaper, so.
Well, great.
Great article too, Scott, thank you very much.
It's a good thing we stuck with April.
I know, right? That was a really good thing this year. We didn't let everybody know, so. And then the preservation tax credits, Steve, if you wanted to go on that email that you, sent everybody, if you have any more information or just want to kind of summarize that. I thought that was
Yeah,
interesting.
I probably shouldn't have sent it out the way I did, because I don't know how many people saw it, since it was under a heading that was nothing about tax credits, but.
Right.
Yeah, it's what's going
It's in the
on.
packet though.
What's going on with the commercial tax credits is pretty, well, it's changeable, I guess is the best way to put it. And right now, there is one pot of money for commercial tax credits for small projects. But the pot of money for big projects went away, but it's supposed to come back in 2025, but they're saying we'll go ahead and apply for it now, so that you get in the queue for getting the money when it becomes available, but when you go on the website, it says you can't apply it. And you actually have to call, somebody at the state to find out what to do. It's really, really kind of a mess. And I was surprised when I talked to, I can't remember her name now, Sarah, that she didn't say she was going to modify the website to make it accurate. But instead she just said, well, it's, yeah, sort of confusing, and it wasn't like she was gonna do anything about it. So, anyway, before we start doing any kind of tax credit workshops, we need to make sure we know what's going on and exactly how people can apply. The residential tax credit is still there, but if you go to the website and click on, download the application, you get the message that you can't. So that's another
On the
confusing thing.
residential?
Well, there is a way to do it, but in one place on the website, if you click on download the application, it says that it's not available.
Oh,
So it's a real mess.
yeah,
But anyway, and what I said was pretty accurate, that you can still apply for the residential one. If you got a project that's less than $20 million for commercial, you can still apply. But for the big commercial projects, you can't get any money right now. Although I guess you can apply if you contact the right person.
and wait for 2025 money to come in. Okay, just making sure I understand.
Yeah, so, but the good news is there is still money, and I guess money will be coming back.
And I think your main point in this, and that's why I put it in the packet, is before we do a workshop, we need to make sure we have the answers before we get people together and give them the wrong information.
Yeah, and tell them where on the website to go to get the
Right, or
application.
contact person, if it's Sarah, and things like that. So yeah, something to think about when we do get closer to our workshop.
Yeah, and another thing is that when you look at what it says, it makes it look like you have to be, your building has to be individually listed. And that's why, the real reason I called Sarah was to clarify that. And she said, no, if you're in the historic district, basically you're covered.
A landmark district, yeah, and the way our paperwork reads is anybody in the landmark district would be, I wouldn't say eligible, because it depends on what's happened to that structure, but they kind of are technically until they get further down through the process, so.
Yeah.
All should.
Something else I was gonna mention, I lost it. Well, anyway. Probably, yeah, probably in the next.
Yeah, and on the tax credits, I got an email, I think earlier today from CPI noting that the bill that's currently making its way through the legislature has passed through whatever its original committee is and is now at the Appropriations Committee. So there's a whole new list of legislators we can contact, should we wish. But
Originally, finance, house.
Yeah.
Finance.
Right, and now it's going.
so now it's an appropriate, so then I think from there, it would probably go to the full House or legislature for a vote, so hopefully it'll make its way, but it's at least going through the steps. So that'll also change things.
Yeah, I remember now what I found out. So if you apply for the tax credit here in Lake County, it goes to the state to be reviewed, which is, I think, different than it used to be. Because when I applied 8 years ago, I think it came to the city first, before they ever went to the state.
Yeah, I think when the previous HPC dissolved, the city took over the reviewing responsibilities, and we have not asked or wanted them back.
Yeah, there are only certain historic districts in the state where they review them themselves. Right. And we're not one of them. Okay, archaeology and historic preservation month resources.
I just wanted to include from History Colorado, they sent an email with different things, with different resources, and sometimes you can't click on these when I put them in the packet and send them to you, so if you want me to send you the email, I can. They also kind of ask for anything that we're doing for our history month, if we can let them know and things like that. It's just something I thought, again, reiterating the fact that Colorado's Historic Preservation Month is in May, and so is archaeology. So anything that we might have to do that we want to send to the state, we certainly can. Whatever we do in April, if we wanted to send to them, that we had an open house, or we had this, and just kind of letting them know, because it's part of our CLG stuff. We've more than met all the requirements needed for that, but I just like to keep them informed. So if there's anything you ever want me to send to the state, especially during their preservation month, that we might have done in our preservation month, I just want to give you a heads up, let me know, and I can send it to the state, and they can include it in their thing.
Do you wanna say anything about the mayor's proclamation of,
I was supposed to be on there, and I don't see it anywhere. Did I put it in your packet?
yes?
Does it still say Greg Lobby on there? I fixed that. Okay. What's sad is where she saw, where the mayor signs, I put her name, but where it said I.
Oh, it
I
does
was
say,
making her say, I, Greg Lobby.
it does say that.
So I fixed that, and it's in the packet, and that is scheduled for the 16th of April at that council meeting. So that is included in your packet, but it's corrected now in the city council packet.
Good, we don't wanna make the mayor unhappy.
I know, right? This is way too new, we can't do that yet.
Okay, great.
I would just make one comment about it. It seems to me that the second whereas is a lot to go through. So I don't know, it just seems like an awful lot for somebody to read through.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's designed to be read through as much as just to try to mention as many things as
Yeah,
possible.
and if you've ever seen Mayor Lave presented, it's a little animated, so it's not real boring. It looks like it might be boring, but he's, and he rewrote this last year to include some current people and things like that. So he made sure the last time he was here that I got the correct proclamation. I got it from last year, so, I don't think it's long enough.
Okay.
Well, that's our only 30 seconds of fame, so I'm like, just get it out there and, yeah. And she, as the mayor, can rewrite it however she wants, but the point is we do need to declare it every year. I think that's the proper thing to do.
So I think the proclamation is great. I have to comment on it.
Oh, one paragraph, but. Okay. And I guess if we wanted to rewrite it at some point, we could, but we didn't write it to begin with, so I didn't feel like it was something that HPC could rewrite.
Let's let the mayor do that.
Yeah, I kind of like that.
Okay, do you have any updates on the research, the history of your home workshop?
I'm meeting with Jennifer Rufero at the library on Thursday to start going through some of the information she has that we think we can present and share and have people look through, so we'll start to get organized on that. I think we are set on May 28th is the date. I would prefer personally to do it here versus the library, just because I think this is the HPC's territory, so I think it would be good if we could do it here. Lori, if you think we can, I don't know if we'll have 5 people or 50 people. So we're gonna need to have some contingencies for setup and making sure the Wi-Fi is working and having adequate TVs that people can see what she's doing and working on. But, we just need to start kind of laying things out right now for how we can advertise. And I talked to the Democrat, and I think Stephanie will maybe put a small article in the paper for us at the right timing that's coming up. You already mentioned it in your article, so.
And this is for the, I'm sorry, May 28th one?
Yes.
Correct, okay, I will reserve this. Well, no, it's not an HPC, it is an HPC regular meeting anyway.
Right, I didn't know we were gonna skip the HPC meeting at that night or try to do it earlier, sooner or quicker.
Well, we talked a little bit about what time of day it ought to happen. Remember, we did a meeting where we had our meeting at 4 o'clock, and then we were supposed to start the public meeting at 5. And we sort of jumped the gun and started the public meeting a little before 5, and then we got some complaints when people came at 5 and said, I thought this started at 5 and you're already going. So. And then I think some people would prefer that it happens even later than 5. So how do we all feel about what the time ought to be? Should it start at 5, at 6? What?
Time is one thing to consider, also just format, remember when we did the open house, at least one of those open houses was kind of intended to be. Maybe we pick off the topic and then we kind of break out into individual groups, and that is not what happened.
Yeah.
But you're not gonna do that, and not,
Chafing to be grilled, I guess.
So,
Chapin had no boxing gloves, I was not pretty side.
I think I only had a few knives in my bag. If we could, maybe just, think about that, so that when we, we're saying, okay, we're interested in the topic, but we're, how we're going to format that, are we going to all maintain our seats, or we're gonna break out and go and move to the table or something, so it feels less formal?
Yeah, did you say, does she have like a full presentation or sort of a workshop that lasts an hour and a half that should be running?
Our thought was that she's got sort of a typical set of items that she likes to go through. Sanborn maps, Library of Congress, photo summaries, and the thought was that she could set up on her laptop, pick an address in town, and just start to work through researching the history of that address. Pull the website up, and anybody who wants to bring their laptop can do the same for their own house at that time. She'll have 2 of her staff members there to kind of walk up and help people. And I don't know how long we'll spend on each topic, we're gonna have to figure that out. But we might spend 15 minutes researching the city directories. And people can start to look through that themselves as they're watching her do it, and then we'll move on to the next topic. So it's a little bit formal in that, it's not really a open house, it's a workshop, is the intent. And I think what we decided last time was to do it from 5 to 7, and that would mirror what you put in the article, it's already been in the paper.
Yeah.
So it doesn't, I think we can change it if we want to at this point, but that would be consistent with what we've already said.
Yeah, I think that sounds good. And then if her, presentation or taking people through lasts an hour, hour 15, then there would still be time for Q&A and for her and her assistants to walk around. And even if people come in late, then they could always just ask questions and sort of.
Yeah, and we're hoping to have a handout that will kind of, provide all the websites and resources we can just take home.
And it's quite possible we could cancel that meeting, I'll check with Chapin to make sure we don't have any COAs coming down, that.
Why don't we leave it on the schedule for now and then see 2 weeks in advance
see,
whether
okay.
we need that meeting?
Okay, that's fair. Yeah.
Well, will there be a way, we could research our own house first? Before this comes out here, so we're more familiar with it?
I can probably come up with whatever the handout's gonna be and get it to you early. I don't, unless we require an RSVP, I don't think we know who to even get that out to.
Right, no, I just mean myself, just or us.
Well, without having those websites, those are the same things that I use, before Chapin came along, y'all remember those 4 days that were where Lori was actually doing those COAs, and that's what I did. I would Sanborn maps all the way through. I went to the congressional, I forget the name of that.
Library.
Yeah, the Library of Congress
Oh.
and Temple Israel, our library. CMC has a lot of information and archive stuff that way. So without knowing those specific websites that he's referring to, I don't know how you would be able to do that ahead of time unless he just gave you those certain places where he
Like
looked.
newspaper collections you could search through.
And I go through all the directories in the city,
Wow.
we have a lot of old directories that I looked at, like I would try to cross-reference an address and a business and see where their home address was and things like that, and it's very time consuming, because it's hunting and looking for things, but there's a lot of different things that, and I'm sure that they even have more sites than I had, just because I didn't know a lot. What I was doing, so.
I will look when I'm at the library on Thursday, and if they have a cheat sheet or a handout, I will grab it and just drop it off in your mailbox.
That'd be good, yeah, just, I have no idea about my house loan, so it'd be kind of fun to do it ahead of time. Sure, that'd be great.
Okay. It sounds like it's well along in the planning, process. And so I guess, Stuart, it's probably up to you to talk about the historic walking tour also.
Yeah, that's, kind of had an interesting week on that. Joey and I had a meeting with Stephanie Wagner over at the Herald Democrat this week. It's a little bit impromptu and much unknown by me, even though I have this document brochure at my house. Marcia, at some point in time, put together a historic walking tour of Leadville that's in this book. Let's see, there's a material that's not. So, you know, there's a start of something that Marcia put together, and she's at the paper already. And the Democrat is extremely, they were in the process of updating this for their own purposes. When they found out we were working on this as we're walking tour, so we started meeting up with them, and they would very much like to work with us. I didn't know they have an actual historian on staff. They have access to a lot of information used to bolster some of this. They actually think that they could, through their digital group, provide the app to run the walking tour. So they're doing, we had a good meeting, had a nice overview of what we're thinking about doing. Stephanie's back talking to her group to see what they think they could provide. And we're gonna meet again next week to see if there's a fit to try to partner with them on it. I think it's, could potentially really be a bolster to this whole project that we're trying to work on. I'm gonna talk to Jennifer Lupro on Thursday about it as well, because a lot of what she does is research on this sort of stuff, so she can help bolster that as well. It might save us money. It's still gonna cost, but it might save us a little bit of money. I think my only concern is I don't want the HPC to lose control of the tour. I mean, my first question was, you know, is this stuff all copywritten and we have access to it? If we, you know, put our heart and souls into this and get off and running, and then we decides they don't want to continue. We want to make sure that we can capture all that and move it over to another platform. There's a lot to discuss, but it was just an interesting meeting, and it was giving us an opportunity to just pause for a minute and think and see if there's a different way to do it. And I'm embarrassed that I didn't even know this was in it.
I've never seen that book before.
Okay, good.
My argument was that Martha did all this as an HBC person and not a Herald Democrat person, that didn't fly.
Wow.
Had she told us about it, we would definitely take claim to it.
Martin's way of coming back.
I know.
Still with it.
I was thinking,
Well,
awesome.
also, this could give us a chance to, it could solve a little bit of the problem about which buildings to put on, and it could allow us to put a lot more buildings on than our initial 10. So, I mean, I'm very excited about where this could go, but I think we need to go into it open-minded and with open eyes. And, obviously, we'll report back on the next meeting.
Something to ask them when you meet is, do they have all of the back issues of the various newspapers digitized? Because Trevor Mark, I've mentioned a few times, did some studies of who lived where in town. And I don't know whether we can get access to what he did anymore, but when I did have access to it, I looked some things up. And there were excerpts from newspapers there for specific buildings. So if you clicked on a house on Seventh Street, you might find a newspaper clipping, and it was actually a picture of the newspaper clipping with a highlight meant of that address, and it said what had happened there on a particular date. And so I'm wondering if the Herald Democrat already has everything digitized, and you can look up an address and find out that, in you know, what happened there in 1882.
So we did talk about, like, you know, they have the Chronicles in the paper every week. We did talk that we could, even on the app, put a link to the, you know, you wanna know what happened here on another day or in history, click on here, and it can take you to those kind of articles or that sort of information, so.
Yeah, well, Trevor had access to that information. I don't know how exactly how he got it, whether it was through the Herald Democrat or through History Colorado or whatever.
Well, and it could have been through. This Colorado Historic Newspaper Collection as well.
And that could be,
Because you can
yeah.
search that also. So I'll ask him that, but
Okay.
again, we'll keep everybody updated. It's just I kind of walked out going, I wish we'd have thought of this from the beginning. It may work, it may not, but they're very, very interested in writing this.
And Stuart, while we're on the subject, should we go ahead and schedule another committee meeting? Because I know Joey was out today, so we didn't have it today, or do you wanna just let me know when we wanna do one of those again, or do you wanna keep it on a regular basis?
Well, I thought we were trying to do it at 3 o'clock on the first HPC meeting of the month.
Okay,
But if I'm wrong on that,
no, that's fine. I'm so behind on minutes, if you guys haven't figured that out, that I have to keep going back to see what was said at the other one before I put it on the new agenda, so I really do apologize. Hopefully this transition week will get over that, and then I can get back to the minutes. So, we will put that on the first HPC meeting of May, and from here on out, at 3 o'clock. So the next meeting will be on the 14th, May 14th.
I think just one other point we have to keep in mind is they obviously are interested in advertising, and that's what they do in these brochures. We were pretty adamant that, you know, we don't want this historic tour to get overrun with advertising. There's gotta be a way to make that work, but being subtle. It could be different layers, so a person can click on one to find out what restaurants there are, but the historic walking tour is the historic walking tour, so they're aware that we have that concern, and they take that into consideration as we continue to.
Is there any more we wanna discuss about Leadville History Month plans?
I honestly couldn't remember, so I put it on there to make sure that we have everything, and if there's anything that I haven't done, now's the time to tell me to do it, because I feel like the last meeting been kind of a net case since. So I'm really worried that there was something I was supposed to do, and I don't know if we had any other plans other than getting an article out. We've got a workshop coming in May, so I think we're done, I just needed you guys to tell me that, we're good. There's nothing we missed, is there? But
No, I think that this is good. This will be a good start to our public programs.
Right,
And
okay.
we'll see where it develops from there.
I will take this off the agenda. It's fine.
Okay, we've already talked about the mayor's proclamation for, that's gonna happen on the 16th, I guess.
Mhm.
HPC awards, so we need to create a PowerPoint for that.
We do, because I would like to have the PowerPoint at the April 16th meeting. We also need to notify the people and get signs ready, or however, you know, we don't really know what they want as far as
Do we still have signs from
We do.
previous years?
signs and stickers. I can put a sticker on there as well. Remember the bigger stickers we got for that very reason, to try to make it look more HPC instead of. But yeah, we do still have plenty of signs and plenty of stands and plenty of stickers.
Oh,
I can create the PowerPoint if you can get me the
Send you the,
basic information and the photos.
but
You know, what the address,
I should have did that
the
last.
address, what was on them in the past. I think the
Okay.
address, I don't know that the owner name was on
I
it.
think
Yeah, I
the
think
name was
just,
on there.
yeah, the like name of the property or, you know, whatever, or the project and then the address and.
Or
a
if you
picture.
just send me
I'll
the,
send you, how about I send you last year's PowerPoint along
I've still
with,
got last year's, but
oh,
I need at least the addresses of who's getting the awards this year, so if you don't have time, I can go take pictures.
okay. I will send you the list and I doubt I'm gonna have time to take pictures, just because the 16th isn't that
I
far.
can do that, I've got a camera,
Okay, thank you, sorry.
I've got a phone.
Right, okay, I will send you the address list and the names and like what it was, if it was a roof repair or facade, you know, whatever.
Yeah,
That's another thing
that
I
would
think
be
we
good.
put on that.
Yeah, I don't think we put that on before, but that would be good to
Okay.
have. Sure,
Do you want to
okay.
give that presentation at city council, or does someone from the HPC want to give that presentation at city council, or would you like for me to do it as staff?
I'm perfectly happy not to meet with city council, so if you wanna do it, I'll just send you the PowerPoint.
Okay,
And you and I can discuss it, because I'm gonna have to be at that meeting anyway for the Lifetime Series TP. So
Okay.
If you want me to, like.
Actually, I think I'm out of town,
I was gonna say, I have two other things on the council on that agenda, so I'm gonna be at that meeting anyway.
All right, so get me that list quickly and then I'll put it together. All right, I think that takes care of updates, so now we have another applicant for membership on the Historic Preservation Commission, Steve Mercado. So would you like to get up and introduce yourself and say a few things?
My name is Steve Mercado. I am a native. I wasn't born here. I was born in Steamboat Springs, but we lived here when I was 2 years old, so I pretty much spent my entire life growing up here. I left when I graduated high school from here in 1980, went to college, Arizona State University, graduated there with a business degree. From there, I moved to Denver, spent many, many years in Denver, went into the telecommunications industry for 30 plus years, which I'm still engaged in that environment. I am there's I have two other siblings, sister and a brother, neither one of them live here. Both of my parents grew up here, they're both have passed since. I came back up here in 2012 actually to help take care of them. And that was the reason why I came back into Leadville. So I decided to stay. I mean, COVID kind of helped make that decision for me as well. And I've enjoyed it ever since. I've been heavily engaged in the community. I volunteer for everybody with the Lions Club, the Eagles Club, the Elks Club, Leadville Main Street, several other organizations as well. So I love being involved in the community in any aspect that I possibly can, because I learned so much from different people and different organizations as well. So I definitely have a mission to stay engaged in what's going on in the community. And I have a little bit of an architectural background. I did study a little bit of that when I was in college as well. So I do have a little bit of a knack for old buildings, especially around here. There's so much history in this town, it's just amazing. And every now and then, what's happening in Leadville when they're putting old photos on there, it's just amazing how I'm learning more and more and more. And you think, God, I don't remember any of that, you know, so it's pretty fascinating. And this organization will actually open another avenue for me. So I'd be very much appreciative to be voted in and become a part of this board and board of commission and see where it goes from here.
just one question for staff. If not selected for the commissioner position, would you be interested in filling the alternate position?
Sure, I'm open to that, absolutely.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
I appreciate the
Do you
time.
have any questions for Steve? No, okay, thank you. All right, so we now heard from the three applicants, and we haven't had any more come in
Yeah.
recently. So how is the best approach for this? Should we ask the applicants to all leave the room? So, or do we want to have a discussion, an open forum discussion?
Probably best to follow the model that city council has established for this kind of thing. And I think that there was a little bit of trial and error with city council, but most recently, They landed at, I think it was a verbal, a verbal vote, so you're not, in other words, passing a piece of paper around and telling your vote. Because there's core things related to that, so, but I would leave it to you to decide whether or not the applicants are in the room or not, whatever you're most comfortable with.
I'm happy to step out.
How do you,
And I also have a question as far as that, as that goes. You and I have received information from Joey, Commissioner Edwards, and we were discussing this before the meeting. Does that count as a vote, or how do we do that? How does Joey's, what he gave to you and I, how does that? I don't even know how to ask.
But at the end of the day, this is still an informal process because, this is a recommendation that is not, to city council, that is not required by code. So ultimately, city council makes this decision. And so I think the city council would like to know, if it was a majority vote, if a unanimous vote, et cetera. But at the end of the day, I think we have some flexibility. So I would, Commissioner Edwards is not here, but I have a written text message, very clean format that communicates his preferences, so I would offer that his preference should probably be included.
okay. Do you feel comfortable discussing this with the candidates present?
Well, let's see, just, with Joey, that would be, you three would be a quorum, is that correct?
I think we want you involved in this. Since you're here.
Yeah.
I do agree with the commissioners.
That makes sure that we've got a quorum. I mean, we've got a
Yeah.
quorum
Right.
physically present. I think that's important.
Mhm.
Okay,
I do think we should consider Joey's input also. But, are you comfortable with discussing it in front of the candidates?
Sure.
Okay,
And so maybe I'll lead off with Commissioner Edwards' preferences, since he is not present. Is that okay?
that's fine.
Okay, so Commissioner Edwards has expressed a preference for Stuart Francone as commissioner and for Steve Mercado as alternate.
Okay, you want to weigh in?
I agree with Joey.
Okay,
Yeah, I think Stuart, since he has experience as an advisory member, already knows how we operate. It'd be great to have him as a full member. Steve Mercado, I think, has a great background and would do well as an alternate, and that would get him great experience for when and if a full commissioner spot opens up and he's interested.
okay.
I agree with Joey as well, for those same reasons. I think Stuart for sure, like it already is, with all that he's done so far. Is Steve is, I know you evade a little bit. I worked with archaeology summers, so I know that. So, very nice, okay, good background.
And I agree with those, what everybody else has said. So, it's that, everybody who's putting in any kind of vote, is in agreement, so you can say unanimous. What that does is it now opens up a position that Stuart is vacating. And so an option for filling that position is that we could ask Steve Prestash to fill it. So how do people feel about that?
That'd be up to you, that'd be all right.
Yeah.
So that would be what, you'd be, on the advisory board. So it's not a voting member of the commission, it's not an alternate member of the commission. But when we have situations like that structure on Oak Street, we ask the advisory board members to go and visit the structure, come back and then react to the proposal in conjunction with Chapin generally, and then often give us a report. So how do you two feel about that? So we don't have Joey here to weigh in on it.
as a staff, can I ask a question? Steve, how would we get hold of you if, say, Chapin had a house or a structure that he needed a pre-application site visit to? I know Mark goes to, but my main concern and question would be, how would we get in touch with you? I mean, you're up at City Hall, you could stop by once a week and check in with Chapin to see if there's anything, but I'm just, that's one of my concerns is he tends to email the advisory members and get their thoughts after they've gone and visited the site and gets their input back. I don't think he'd have a problem with a written, description of what you saw from you, but I guess my concern is getting you notified that there's gonna be a pre-application meeting or a meeting that you need to go, or a structure that you need to go look at.
I'm pleasantly stunned, first of all, but, I plan to be attending, all the city council meetings, all these meetings, and all the, ENC meetings.
Okay,
I have an email at the library, I don't have a computer,
right,
so you can use the Colorado Muskrat Yahoo, thing, but I hit that sporadically, so it'd be best to see me at one of these other meetings and say, hey.
okay. That's a fair answer. I just needed to know how we would proceed.
Or you could leave a note on my front door, there's a building, a red box there, leave a note of that.
Okay,
Maybe we'll call you, Steve, maybe we'll, call you on the phone.
no,
Pleasantly, I do not have. Okay,
Do you have a post office box?
yes.
Okay, let's make sure that, well, okay. We haven't done a vote on this yet, so it was a proposal that I brought up personally, so let's discuss that.
So Stuart, as an advisor, you physically go see these sites and takes pictures? I know you guys climbed around and over on Oak Street.
Well,
That's
I
part
guess
of
what I noticed is Chapin doesn't always have a lot of time to react. Things come in and he needs help that, that day or the next day or, it's not, sometimes there's time enough to plan ahead, but it's not uncommon and it's not your fault, it's just the way the system works. We'll get an email that says, this is a COA that's coming, can you guys go look at that right now or today or tomorrow? And get me a report back so I can get it to the commissioners, in the next day or two. So yeah, we're physically going to every site, meeting that, whenever it can be set up with the homeowner or the Chapin or whatever, and reacting pretty quickly to things, so.
And that involves meeting with Chapin face to face or,
Oh, yeah, because we'll meet sometimes to go through the code and
uh,
discuss what we think applies, and then go look at the property. And then
Wow.
we sometimes come in here afterwards, say, based on what we saw, let's go to the code again, and try to figure this out.
Yeah, and I think going forward, as we're interviewing for the planner one position this week, which will be involved in some, additional staff person supporting the Historic Preservation Commission and, reviewing administrative COAs.
Well,
And so right now it's just me and, I can't keep up with the volume. And so what happens, Stuart's 100% correct, is that I don't want to send, basically an application to the advisory members until I've had an opportunity to wrap my head around it first. So that I can basically help guide them a little bit, since this is what I'm doing every day and they're in a volunteer role. Most realistically with the volume of applications right now, that is the week before your public hearing. And so I'm putting together a draft staff report and submitting several times that draft staff report is done Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or the packet gets published. So that's the short turnaround time that Stuart was speaking to. The other role is supporting staff for administrative decisions. And so as a staff of one, I have leaned on both of them at least once or twice for administrative decisions for things like window replacement, where it's not it's not appropriate for it to go through a full public hearing process, it's a minor modification under our new code. But I've been leaning on them to get a second set of eyes on that. So there's sometimes a little more breathing room on that because we're not up against public hearing, public notice, packet deadlines and those sorts of things. But yeah, again, the primary purpose of the advisory members are do things that appointed officials cannot do due to, ex parte contact and limitations of public notice requirements. So meeting with applicants, conducting site visits where having multiple HPC members on site would constitute a public meeting that has to be publicly noticed. And supporting staff and ultimately advising, the HPC in advance of like a quasi judicial public hearing. And I should clarify that, they're advisory to HPC, not to city council. So Stuart and I have discussed, establishing the boundaries of that role, so there's not this pressure for city council to be leaning on advisory member recommendations. I think there might have been a misunderstanding of the role of advisory member, so we talked about excluding those kind of comments from the city council packet, so it doesn't create that confusion.
And I would just make one more comment based on my own experience. Mark has a really excellent background for this role with his education and his work experience. There were times when not always, but there were times when I sort of wishing I had an architectural degree or an engineering degree or, something more structural. I'm very good at going through code and figuring things out in life, but there were times when I was sort of like, it'd be good if I had, an architectural background or something for it. I don't think that's always necessary, but I think would have been helpful to me.
Yeah,
Steve, hearing this, does that make you think differently, or do you still feel that that's a position that you would be okay with? Or how do you feel at this point?
Well, I don't have an architectural background.
Well, neither does Stuart, but he's just saying sometimes he wished he did, because there's,
Other than working with people.
right.
So no, again, I'm somewhat stunned. Thank you.
well, it still seem that it's not critical necessarily, but there has to be almost immediate responses. Does that sound like it? If you need that information within a day or two or something like that, you need to be able to get a hold of people. So,
At this time, in order to, and I'm hoping this will change in the future, but at this time, that is the reality of the situation due to staff capacity.
so he had to get a hold of you in a hurry. How would he do it? Sounds like that's the case sometimes.
Yeah, I can't afford a phone at this point in my life, I just can't, I mean, there's just no way, I have 579 storage thing for my bookstore business at Big Al's, and I'm paying on dog care, about $100 a month, $100 a month, to fix my car, which is finish fixing. There's just no way I can afford a phone. Yeah. I can come by, City Hall on like the middle of the week or something and check with Chapin or,
And I'm thinking maybe, and this is obviously the commission's decision, but I was thinking if Chapin's okay with it, maybe we could try it out. If it doesn't work out, I think Steve would understand it has to do with needing to get hold of him quickly if it didn't work out, but I know personally, if I'm walking through town every day, I'm probably gonna see Steve almost every day at some point. We've done it before. I mean, I walked to and from work when I lived on Second, and I almost saw him almost every day somewhere, even if it was at lunchtime or, at a different time of the day, so I don't know, it's up to you guys. I'm just trying to think out loud.
I'd be happy to accommodate a weekly meeting. So the opportunity to check in with the advisory members of the HPC, we're both advisory members, so I want to make sure that would work for all advisory members. But having a weekly meeting to just accommodate communication, I would need to keep it pretty short just due to staff capacity, but a 15-minute
Just to check in.
15-minute meeting, and I'd be happy to make that phone call. If
Mark, would
one
you be
person,
okay with it?
one person can on the phone, so I can, yeah, I can coordinate that.
Sounds workable. Trial basis, and then when you get your assistant or whatever it is, then you'd be out of the picture a little bit, would be the advisors and your second in command, whatever.
I hope I didn't shock everybody, but it's just something I've been thinking about and knew we were gonna have this opening if Stuart did come onto the commission. So it's a solution. I don't know if it's perfect, but
Try it out.
Yeah,
Scott,
yeah, that sounds fine. Yeah, my only concern would be that I would encourage Steve to stay on topic with his communications to the board.
We could go with the leaving a note on front door. Just so it's visible.
Just to clarify, this is an appointment for a three-year term.
Are they? How do they work? Is he gonna be
Yeah.
filling Stuart's term until it ends?
Yeah, I wondered about that, whether we wanted to have people sort of continue the term of the person that they're taking over from to continue our stagger, or
Let me just think about it 1 second.
but we can make the recommendations because that doesn't matter a ton in terms of who we're actually recommending for what role.
Well, and it sounds like we've got kind of total flexibility as far as the advisory board is concerned. Since city council doesn't weigh in on the membership or anything.
right, and it's not a voting member, it's, it's a non-voting person.
Upon quick review of the code that spells out all the rules for these positions, it seems like the term of appointment for members and for alternate members is pretty well spelled out. It seems like there's not much information on the staggering of terms for replacement
That's an
positions. And so I guess it would be my interpretation without that being spelled out, that it would be a 3-year appointment from today.
on the day you
Not, in other words, not filling
finish
or
your term.
finishing the previous term.
Steve, also, did you hear what Scott said about as long as you can stay on topic when you're giving us advice from what you see? Does that make sense to you? Because
Oh, thank you for explaining that. I didn't hear
Okay.
it clearly.
I wanted to explain that so that you knew what he was talking about, because you come to city council and all the meetings and have things to say, and I guess his point being, we need to stay on topic because you're being asked to look at one specific thing and do that, and that's what he was asking.
I can be focused.
Okay,
Okay. Then
So do you wanna take a voice vote or how do you wanna handle
do you want them to go back and say a voice vote, even though they were all the same on Franklin and Mercado? Or how do you want to do that?
Yeah, I think we would do, so I think this, you are essentially taking an action and even though it is not required by city council. So I don't think it hurts to take a formal action. So someone make a motion for commissioners, someone make a motion for alternate, someone make a motion for.
can we do it in one,
Can we do it all?
Yeah.
one motion?
it? I don't think the term would start today because Stuart's term on this commission doesn't start today.
That's-
It would start when he moves into this position.
Once city council appoints them, which we're planning on that for April 16th. We have it on the agenda for that.
Oh,
I mean,
So
that's
you're absolutely right.
excellent point. So we could, on a future agenda, at the next meeting following the city council appointment, could then there would be a vacancy, and so then you could then make that motion and that is a formal motion. the motion to appoint the advisory member, the vacant advisory position is a formal motion, because it's not just a recommendation to city council.
So it would be better to wait till the next meeting to do that.
I agree with that, I think
Yes,
so.
yes, because there is no vacancy at this time
Okay.
until city council appoints that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, next spring.
No, I don't know. I spot it.
Yeah. So
Right, right, we need to do everything in the right order.
our motion will just be for the commission member and the alternate.
Right,
Yes.
so then the motion would be for only commissioner and alternate. Does that make sense to you, Steve, as,
Good with
okay?
that?
I think that makes perfect sense.
Okay,
Because
I think that's the best way to
Yeah, agree.
Okay, and we already took a voice vote on the Stewart moving into the commission and Steve
Not really.
Mercado coming in as an alternate.
Do we need to do a
Not
formal?
really, there was never a motion and there was no vote. You just voiced who you wanted, but there was not an actual motion or a vote.
So
So,
we moved right into the city council.
Okay. I move to recommend to city council that Stuart Francone be appointed to the open commission spot and that Steve Mercado be appointed to the open alternate spot.
A second.
Great, and I, sorry, that's.
I'll do the voice of an actual roll call on this one. Okay, Commissioner Whittington,
Yes,
Commissioner Spillman,
Yes.
Commissioner Flacker.
Yes.
That's unanimous and yes.
So that'll be on the city council agenda for next Tuesday at 6 P.M.
okay,
And, Mr. Mercado, just to clarify, the alternate position, if there is a member of the commission that is absent during for a quasi judicial public hearing, so for a certificate of appropriateness, then the alternate commissioner can vote in the absence of a regular commissioner. And that does happen frequently. Right now, we have a COA, a public hearing, just about every other, at least once a month. So there's definitely an opportunity, and then also I believe there's, priority consideration for future opening positions, so just want to clarify.
Not to mention that, Commissioner Edwards, who's not here, also sits on city council.
Okay.
So anytime we do have a public hearing or a COA like that, he recuses himself and leaves, and that automatically needs, an alternate to step in once he does. So for the public hearings, it happens a lot, that we need the alternate, both alternate members to vote, so. It's just the way it's been, like.
Quasi alternate.
Yeah. Alternates
I
are
appreciate it.
quite important.
okay. All
Okay,
right,
so we
I
will
think-
make that recommendation to city council. And then at our next meeting, we should be able to, do an advisory member and I'm feeling like we should also wait until after the city council appointment to decide on chair and vice chair, because the city council says, no, this person cannot be on HPC.
Yeah.
I've never seen them do that, but it's a possibility, so.
Yeah, vote.
That's my opinion on
Yeah.
when we choose the new chair and vice chair.
Did they approve those positions too? Or no?
No, I
No.
think we just do.
No, we just appoint amongst ourselves. They just have to appoint the actual commission, and then amongst ourselves, we decide who's chair, vice chair.
Okay,
So I did just check, we actually have that on the city council agenda for May 7th, not next week's meeting. We,
Oh,
I have
I didn't
two,
realize that.
we have three,
We have time, but we don't have,
so
we can't move it.
can't move.
I don't think we could move it to the 16th. I thought we had a bunch on the 16th.
We do,
I wasn't at that meeting this morning, so.
and, yeah, so,
I wish we could move it.
ideally, we would keep it in there unless there's a huge need to get it on next council's, next week's agenda.
so moving it to the 7th or keeping it on?
It's currently on the agenda for the 7th, because we have the meeting is so busy next week, the meeting on the 7th is also very busy. Unless there's a huge timing concern for putting it on next week's agenda, I think staff would prefer to keep it on the meeting of, city council meeting of May 7th.
We have a,
I think that's fine. We have the COA coming up, but we've already done a workshop on that.
Correct,
So-
on May 7th, yes.
and I'll send an email to Mick to make sure that he is also available to come, because
Yeah, it'd be
it would be
ideal to
best
have
if
more
we
than
could have at
three.
least, at least 4,
Mhm.
because Joey will have to recuse himself, so
Right.
I want to have at least four if that's possible. So I agree.
When is our COA review?
The 23rd, the next April, the next meeting here in
And
April.
which one is that?
206th Street.
Oh.
With Morgan Law and Shape Architecture and so, and we've already done a work session on it, so.
So that COA is at the next meeting.
Yes, before we are fully seated.
Okay, well, everything takes time.
That's true. Okay, we'll leave it on.
We're all about time, right?
We'll leave it on May 7th, because I don't see any major reason not, to really rush.
Okay, all right, so I think we've got this all straight. And then we've got Saving Places notes from Stuart and
And Rebecca Thomas as well.
Thomas, and Rebecca is not here to. Stuart, do you want to say anything about Saving Places and your experience with that?
Got a lot here because I think some of the questions were already presented by other participants. You guys, well, I think most of the same points that I had. Just quickly, I think I mentioned this last meeting, I do wish we had some more introductory classes. There's a lot of new city council people and commissioners coming on. I think if we had a orientation for those kind of people that are new to the process, so that's just one thought. I was really surprised at the opening session, because it seemed like, just as I'm getting involved in this, there's a bunch of trends that are changing in terms of historic preservation, and it's not that it's not all about buildings, but there's other things coming into play that are affecting the state and how they want to view it, and how they want to spend money. Cultural aspects are getting as involved as the brick and mortar, so things are changing a little bit. That was interesting. The navigating national historic landmarks, I thought was really interesting. There's 28 of them in Colorado. Historic tourism is a big part of it, and it fits in really well with that walking tour that we're trying to put together. That'll go really well. I think the biggest thing I took away from that one is that there's a town, I believe it's in New Mexico, that recently went through a landmark redesignation. And most of the historic landmark area for this is vacant land.
Yeah.
They actually took part of the city and moved it out because it was a newer part of town. And so I just started going, well, that sounds a lot like the east side of Leadville. And actually, after the meeting, talked to Poppy Gullett, who, I know you guys all know her from the past, that's the first time I met her, but she's now with the National Park Service. And I asked her about that. I said, I was surprised to see that, vacant land is part of a historic landmark district. And I wondered how that might fit in with our east side. The commission at some point ever decided to look at that for the expansion. So she seemed to think it was, that's within the realm of things people are doing. So I'm a little surprised about that. I also did go to the North London Mine Lecture, which I found really fascinating. I spent most of my childhood over on that side of Mosquito Pass on weekends. My family's got a cabin there. I trolled around that historic building a million times as a kid. And to see what they've done with it, restoring it, was absolutely remarkable. And every time I go up on the east side, which is about daily, I look at every one of those buildings and go, man, if we don't do something, we're gonna lose every one of them here eventually. So, I thought it was a nice segue between those two. I also went to the Main Street 101 lecture, which, I'm still learning about that in my new role at Main Street. So lots of good information for me there as well.
Okay, great, thanks.
I went to lots of other lectures, my requirement was to write out 3, so that's.
Did any other commissioners attend the energy conservation, building materials and sort of renovation that was on the list?
I didn't, and a couple of them got canceled,
Okay,
so there were some that I was interested in that get canceled.
okay. I didn't write up a report, but that was the only one that I think that I attended that I haven't heard anyone else speak on, and that one was really interesting, and, obviously, energy conservation and addressing climate goals is a huge conversation in the architecture, city planning, et cetera, professions. And, there was a good bit of information that was shared on modeling programs that are available now to architects, engineers, et cetera, who are working on projects that involve historic buildings. And, of course, there's this, there's definitely an assumption that that in the historic preservation community, that, the oldest building, the most preservation you can do, sorry, I'm butchering this, but preserving a historic building, there's energy conservation in that historic building that occurs by preserving it versus building. So the embodied energy of existing buildings is something to take into consideration when we're looking at climate goals. I mean, we're not there yet in terms of our city council and our city codes and comprehensive plan and things, really, tackling, climate change and addressing climate goals that a lot of bigger communities are because of their impacts. But there's modeling software that's available out there right now. So if we had someone who, for example, was coming in and they were proposing a historic preservation project in downtown, our code is not set up to require this or require them to document this, but there is software out there that is available to help architects model decisions with historic preservation, building envelopes, building materials that are used. And it's not always preservation of the existing materials is the most energy efficient, but it's not always upgrading everything you can with the building, including the windows, is the path towards the most energy efficient building. And looking at overall energy, including the embodied energy that went into all the material, labor, et cetera, for the existing building. So just know that that is a conversation that is out there. I think it's something we should definitely keep our eye on. I don't think we're there yet. But the blend of historic preservation and climate goals is definitely part of the conversation that's happening in the industry.
And I'll need that written up too. And I are the two remaining people that have not written them. And Joey, but yeah, I did send off our stuff and they're reimbursing us anyway. She just said, send me the others when you get them, and I felt so guilty because it's literally. So, yeah, we'll get there. If I may, can I add one thing I forgot during updates? I sent off deliverable, I think I told you guys, deliverable number 6, which was 10% of our CRS forms. And they finally reviewed them. They thanked me for submitting them. We have completed our review and approved the deliverable. We have a number of comments to address prior to the submission of the next deliverable, which is all of them, all of the, not draft, the actual submittal. So I didn't get to read them all. I need to forward this to you because she sent a deliverable in a file and they changed their share settings, so I wasn't able to get in, so I've had to email her back to get
I
in.
can speak on this because I read all of this.
Oh, did you get to read the comments?
Yeah.
I've not been able to find the comments. Thank you.
And I'm trying to remember if we shared this with the HPC, how much detail we went into at the last time, but I think I commented to the HPC about how I've reviewed the 11
Yes.
examples.
Yeah, you gave your comment.
Sent those off, okay.
Mhm.
So, the good thing is that the state was supportive of our comments. And so that they had additional comments, but they introduced those into their comments. And I think the two things that were consistent between our comments and the state's comments were that, there's a note section in the standard template to describe how for example, the siding on the building contributes to the building's integrity. And right now that is pretty consistently left blank in the notes section. So that was a really important thing that will affect us with the development. So for a few years from now, someone comes in and they have a historic building, they're proposing to remove all of the existing siding, which we're trying to understand, well, with the cultural resource survey form, what did it say about that siding that was on the building at the time of the survey and how that affected its integrity? So right now, that information is not in those draft forms. So that is something that will be a big tool for us as we go forward with development review and reviewing COAs in the future. And you know, our tools will be the CRS form, the coastal resource survey form, and our design guidelines, whether we're talking about our local design guidelines, or the Secretary of Interior, standards and guidelines. So it was great to see that comment was supported, and it's point on the second.
And we'll address that at another meeting, because I just couldn't access all their comments, but I'm hoping to some comments into the.
Yeah, have you all been in touch with Metcalf? Do you know their response to the comments?
I have
and whether
not,
they think
not
they'll be-
since, not yet.
It came in, I think, just in the last week.
Yeah.
But I assume if both you and, more importantly, the state historical fund, who will be like giving the money, say the same thing, that they'll,
Yeah,
you know, be. okay.
Right.
and that was copied on that.
Yes,
All right,
they got the same comments and
yeah, because it would be great for those to be as
I'm
useful.
assuming, so again, I was gonna wait to reach out to them because this was kind of one of those times and I thought I'd give them a little more time.
Yeah.
But then check on them and see how they're doing in the hiring phase and then address the comments, which I'm certainly hoping that they're gonna, you know, fix them up, because there were several blanks. I mean, Chapin had several comments on some of the formatting, just leaving things blank was not acceptable to us, but we're also kind of hoping that that's because they don't have the historical.
Yeah.
Not architect, anyway, that word, and I always
The
know.
letter came in on Friday, so
I thought-
after we post the packets, we have that, we'll include that letter in the next packet.
Right,
next
in the
week's
next packet.
Sounds good.
Anything else?